Welcome back to Your 1230, the only podcast where our guests tell their story with the help of 12 questions in just 30 minutes. I'm your host, Mike Salitro, and today we are very excited to be joined by Lenny Richardson. The name of the game is to constantly improve and conquer life. This is the message Leviticus shares to his audience with the use of his media. As a real estate advisor, philosopher, author, and productivity coach, Leviticus is well equipped to help everyone achieve Eudaimonia, which is a life flourishing by building the three pillars. Lenny, welcome. We are really excited to be speaking with you tonight.
I appreciate you for having me on, Mike. I appreciate it.
Of
I'm
course, of
excited.
course. And you do a lot of different things there in the bio. If you were to meet somebody new on the street or you introduce yourself, how do you usually do that? What do you tell them you do?
Yeah. So if I meet someone and they say, what do I do? To be honest, I usually just say productivity coach. I keep it super straightforward. So that's usually the title that I go with. If they dig deep into it, I'll say productivity coach, real estate advisor. Sometimes I try to call myself real estate consultant just to not sound like every other real estate agent out there. But yeah, productivity coach is the main title I'd call myself.
So I want to start kind of with both of those things, but start with the productivity piece. What exactly, if someone follows up, so well, how do I become more productive? That sounds great. How do you coach people to do that?
Yeah, so as far as productivity, the very first thing I try to find out when have different clients is just what they want in life to begin with. Like, what's their vision? What's their goal? What are they trying to achieve? And the reason why I try to start there is I kind of see a goal almost like a map of sorts. Like if you this is gonna sound super nerdy for anyone listening, but I'm a fan of anime and I like this anime called One Piece, which they recently made into a live action. And it's about a bunch of pirates. And the way I think about it is if you're a pirate, you want to go find treasure, you can't really find treasure without a map. You have to at least have an idea of where you're going, even if you don't know exactly where to go. So the goal is essentially a map. It's just giving you an idea of where to go. And then from there, you reverse engineer what steps you need to take to get to that point, that destination, or that goal. So that's the first thing. And then I would say the next thing, which is a bit more practical than just kind of defining a goal. Um, what I usually tell people who have a client, and this depends on exactly what the goal is, but I usually say try to break down what you believe, or at least what you have seen, are the top three things that help you get to that goal. And then from there, just do either all three of those things or just the one main thing that has actually created some progress. Hopefully that makes sense, that answer.
That makes a ton of sense. And you mentioned goals, maps, and being nerdy. I don't think that's nerdy at all. I think it's kind of fascinating. And the point that I want to ask you about, because I wrote it down, people's goals line up with their ideas or their wants. Do you find that most people know what they want or have an idea of how to get there?
Sadly, no. Um, yeah, no to both kind of questions. Definitely no to not knowing where how to get there, but more so it's a no to even defining a goal. Um, I don't know. I tend to find a lot of people, they kind of just, and this might sound negative, but this isn't meant to be interpreted as a negative thing toward anybody. They kind of just do what they're told by society. Like society says, do A, B, and C, and people, from my experience at least, they don't really question it, and they say, okay, well, I guess I'll do A, B, and C. And I think sometimes as time goes on, people might start to think to themselves, this feels weird. I don't really know what I'm doing. Something just feels off. Maybe I had some goals when I was young, and then as time went on, I accepted with the life prescription that was given to me. Um, but yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think most people have really sat there and defined what they want out of life. And since they haven't defined that, they haven't, you know, most people, of course, by extension, haven't reverse engineered what it takes to get whatever that thing is that they're looking for.
Well, I think those two things kind of dovetail nicely that people are maybe uncertain or unclear of what they want because they have just been following a path or a map, if you will, of what they think they should be doing based on what they see in society or what they believe is the right thing to be doing. And you get to a point, it's like, well, I'm not happy doing this. I don't know where I want to go. I don't I don't even know if what I'm doing is going to get me to that spot. So I'm kind of confused on both fronts. So I like to kind of break it down from thinking of productivity as getting to a target or hitting a goal that's important to you or tying it there from the start. I think that's where we can go wrong easily. That you just work really hard, or you show up to do a job or to do something you don't like, and you realize, well, I've been doing this thing that gets me to this place, and it's not where I want it to be. So understanding that up front is really important. What kind of questions will you ask people to help them kind of flush out what they truly want?
Yeah. So, I mean, the very first thing is the question itself, just what do you want? And then most people kind of sit there and they kind of think, huh, I don't really know. And then so from there, I would say something along the lines of, and it depends from person to person. Usually when I first start out, I give people like a big sheet to kind of fill out. But if it was kind of a face-to-face thing, or if it was through a Zoom call, I would sort of go and say, okay, well, in about 5 or 10 years, what do you wish you would have done? Like if you could kind of in your mind fast forward about 10 years, what would the story of your life look like? What would you have wished you would become? And then this actually kind of ties into this idea of eudaimonia. Um, that's sort of the framework I try to use to help people really kind of visualize what they want. Because I know it sounds vague to say, well, what do you want? So then if they can't come up with a good answer, then I try to get more specific and say, physically, what do you want to look like? Do you want to just be lean and just kind of be thin? Some people like kind of like the long distance runner look. Do you want to be a bodybuilder? Do you want the Arnold Schwarzenegger look? Do you want to kind of look, I don't know, do you want to just look athletic? So that's one thing. Then wealth. Do you want to have a lot of money? Are you okay with the money you have? What does that look like? And then why do you want it? Do you want to go on lots of vacations? Do you want to just have nice cars? Do you just want to be content and just make X amount of money, but you just want to, just hang out with your wife or husband or whoever, kids? They're all fine answers because everyone's different. Relationships, do you want to be like the playboy lifestyle? Do you want to just kind of have a family and kind of live like a cozy, low key lifestyle? Um, there's no wrong answers, but I think by breaking it down to those three pillars, as I call them, those three categories, it helps people kind of really visualize or at least question what they want in life. And then, of course, from that point, once you visualize or question what you want, you can at least make some progress on creating that life for yourself.
I like that you follow up with why, because I think that puts into perspective a lot of things to talk about as you're saying them. It's like, yes, I want all of those things. Well, why do you want them? Well, I've got different reasons, and clearly my priorities are more likely to show themselves if I tell you why I want them or how I'm working toward them. And as you describe the three pillars, it strikes me that they are pretty holistic, or they cover a lot of different ground. How do you how do you help people in so many different areas where they might have different starting points? They might be really good at their job, but they might not be in good shape, or they might be fantastic at getting to the gym in the morning, but the rest of the day is a disaster. So how do you help them kind of figure out specifically which of those pillars or multiple that they need to work on?
Yeah, so that's the hard part, and that's something I'm still trying to work on right now, to be honest. Um, in the past, when I first tried to get into the coaching thing, the goal was kind of to help people build all of those things at the exact same time, and I found that that was a bit too chaotic to have someone just try to build your money the way you want to, try to build your relationships the way you want to, try to build your health. I think all at once is tough. And that's kind of why I changed to being more of a productivity coach and time management coach, because I sat there and thought about it. And my thought process was at the root of achieving all three of those things, or any one of those three things, it really just comes down to managing your time effectively. Like just having the energy to do things and also structuring your day enough so you're actually doing. those things, or at least you have an idea of what you should be doing or could be doing. Um, so I tried my best not to go too deep. Like my goal is not to be a financial advisor. It's not to be a personal trainer. It's not to be like a dating coach or relationship coach. It's more to just help people figure out what their day should look like and then prioritize the things that they want to do at any given time. So if they want to, for example, if their main goal is, I'm not in the best shape and my money's okay, and I have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, I'm okay with that. But I kind of just want to get in better shape. Okay, cool. We're not, I'm not going to talk about the things you could be doing in the gym. I mean, if you want my 2 cents, then that's fine, but I'm not a personal trainer. What we can do is figure out, are you going to the gym X amount of times per week? Do you make time to go to the gym? Because we know that at least going to the gym is going to be that key habit or that key activity that's going to lead to whatever physique or health goal that that person wants to have. Um, and then from there, if say they finish a health goal, okay, let's help you structure your day so that way you can do your finance goals and then your relationship goals. And I think I haven't had anyone like juggle too much between all three. As of now, it's usually just kind of like one thing. But my personal belief, because I do this with myself all the time, I think you're going to have to always just kind of be prioritizing one versus the other two. Like maybe your health is the most important thing right now, or maybe your money is the most important thing. And you just kind of have to plan things out accordingly, by just kind of keeping in mind what your priorities are and, what's most important to you at any given time. So I don't know if hopefully that answers your question. You're kind of just like always chipping away at each pillar, so to speak, never at the same time, but you're kind of doing health that, for the most part, most of your attention's on health. Then once the health looks decent, once it's sculpted and looks chiseled enough, then you move over to the health. Then you might look back at the health and say, health's not looking as good as the wealth is now. Let me go back to the health and chip away at that more. So that's kind of the way I see it.
Well, I think you hit on the two really big things there. That it's a constant process, that it's many iterations, that I'm going to work at this, I'm going to see what's working well, I'm going to make changes, I'm going to keep going. And then it's always reprioritization, that it's what's important to me today, why is it important, how is it how is this going to impact me? And then is this still the top priority 3 months, 6 months, 2 years down the line? And kind of reshuffling that deck and keeping those two things front and center and asking those questions. Hey, what's working, what's not, why? And then refocusing. So I think that makes a ton of sense. So yes. One thing I wrote down when you were talking, how did you figure out you were good at this? Or because it is a lot of different things and helping people see this can be quite difficult. How did you know, yeah, this I'm good at this and I can help others do it too?
You know what? That's that's a good question. I don't know if I think I'm always trying to. I think a part of me's in denial that I'm good at it. I just try to keep doing things and hoping that the behaviors and actions justify my belief, if that makes sense. It's like, am I good at it? I don't know. I'm definitely not the best at it, but if people get progress from it, then I'm good enough. I guess that's the kind of the way I see it, to be honest. Um,
Good answer.
yeah, I mean, I think to some degree, I think in my personal life, I have seen some things where it's like, okay, I have gotten into shape. And more or less nowadays, I used to kind of train people on the side, but more or less nowadays, I can kind of gain weight and lose weight at will. It's not always easy, of course, but I can kind of control it. Um, the habits towards like kind of building up the coaching business, at least doing the basic stuff, outreach and lead generation, follow up, things like that. You can kind of control your time at least to doing those things. Um, and then when it comes to like relationships, by no means am I the best boyfriend on the planet. By no means am I like a dating guy, but you know, I used to in the past. This is no one judge me. I did like pickup type stuff in the past. Had like a pickup coach and did all that stuff. Um, and then so a part of me was like, oh, I guess I'm at least decent in every area, and I see deficiencies in other people, that I thought I could be helpful in. I thought I could help them with those things. But I think one of the things that stood out the most was that a lot of people would say to me, how do you do so much in one day? So that was one thing that was consistent. People say, man, you do a lot in a single day. I used to work years ago at this it's a store called Brooks Brothers. If I don't know if everyone's familiar with it, but it's kind of a like a clothing store, but they sell kind of higher end suits and dress shirts and more formal wear. They sell jeans and stuff too, but it's mostly known for formal wear. Um, but actually, my boss at the time, because he saw I had a podcast and I had wrote kind of like a small book, and I was doing real estate even while doing my job at Brooks Brothers. And he's like, man, he saw me on LinkedIn, oddly enough. And he's like, dude, you do a lot. He's like, how do you work here and you do a podcast and you do this stuff and you're consistent with it? And I was like, I don't know. I just do it. Um, so I think that's kind of what made me at least think about helping other people with it. Because to me, it was just I just do it. I didn't think that other people don't do it. It hadn't crossed my mind that other people might not be able to. I shouldn't say be able to. That's not the best way to put it because they can, but maybe most people haven't really found the rhythm or the structure, I should say, to do so many things in a single day. And that's not me saying that they should. If they don't want to, they don't have to, of course.
Of
Um,
course.
but I kind of recognize from people just saying it that it's a little bit abnormal, and maybe a little bit unique. So I kind of figured, well, maybe that's a skill that I can help others at least improve on. That was my very long-winded answer to that question.
No, no, not long. That's a good answer. But as you say that, someone's listening to this and they're saying, "Yeah, Lenny, you do a lot of things. That sounds great. I don't do enough stuff. What can I do today or tomorrow that can help me do more? Or what can you tell me that I don't know about priority management, time management that will really kind of get me going in the right direction?"
So this is usually what I recommend first thing, very first thing. And I've had clients fight me on this. They don't want to do it. I think it's not natural for a lot of people, but I think at least if you're just starting and you want to like really start being more productive, I would say get into the habit of planning your night the night before. And I know from some people it's not easy to do. It sounds simple, but it's not simple. It's harder to pull off in practice. But usually what I recommend to people, find out like the night before, I'd say like 9 p.m. before you go to bed. Take 10 to 15 minutes, no more than that. It doesn't need to take a lot. You don't need to take a lot of time. Just sit there and really script out the following day. And I usually tell people the very first things, script out the time you want to wake up, the time you want to go to bed. And then from there, find at least one thing that you think is really going to drive results. I used to do real estate. When I was doing real estate, one of those things could be lead generation because most business owners, outside of real estate, most business owners probably want more leads. If you feel like your business is lacking, and I'm not a business coach, but this is just my thought process. If you feel like your business is lacking and you feel like leads are the thing that you need, then if nothing else, plan to just take 2 or 3 hours and lead gen. And maybe that could be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. or to 12 p.m., whatever you think is necessary. And it depends on your schedule too. If you have a 9 to 5 job or other priorities, you have to kind of, this is why the planner is so useful because you can see it visually and kind of structure your day accordingly. But you have to slot it in. And if nothing else, you at least, assuming you followed the planner and you didn't kind of see it and then just push it to the side, assuming you followed it, you're guaranteed to at least have made some progress. Like even if you're not the best lead generator, even if you're not generating leads efficiently, you still tried to generate leads in this like hypothetical scenario. So that's something. Um, Same thing with like going to the gym or trying to get in better shape or if you're I like not to go on too far of a tangent, but I like Alex Hormozy and Layla Hormozy. I've been kind of watching a lot of their content recently. For anyone that's hopefully everyone's familiar with them or most people listening are familiar with them. I saw a clip with Layla and she was saying that her female friends were struggling to find a good date, like a good partner. And she said to them, "How many times have you gone on dates?" And they said, "Oh, like once, twice." It's like, well, if they were asking me as a time management or productivity coach, I would say, well, take 3 hours and at least like go on Tinder and swipe and match with people and schedule time to go on dates. If that's the thing that you want the most, going on dates in that situation, You just got to put in the planner and actually do it. Um, so that would be the main thing. Just the night before, planning out what you want to do the following day, actually putting it in the planner because some people try to just keep it in their head. If you don't follow the plan, you're kind of using guilt to your advantage in a weird way. You feel guilty about not doing something, and then next time you choose not to do. Next time like that planner crosses your face, you're gonna sit there and say, "Okay, is this another day where I'm not gonna do my outreach? Is this another day where I'm not gonna go to the gym or whatever it is that you want to do?" And you'll either just give up, which it's fine, can give up if you want to, or you'll do it and just kind of suck it up and get stuff done. Sorry again for the very long answer to the question.
No, you hit all the big things there that I think if someone is looking for, well, what can I do right now that's and you make it you're very direct and honest about how you answer. There's nothing exciting necessarily about planning your day out the night before, and it doesn't sound hard, but it's tedious, even if it's at 10 or 15 minutes. And a lot of times you might think, oh, it's a lot easier if I just think about this, or I know what I'm going to do. And then it's like, oh, I don't want to script my whole day. And you have that whole thing. But if you actually put something down on paper, there's a lot better chance that A, it happens or that you remain accountable to it. And you nailed it, I think, when you mentioned the one or two things. That if you have two things on that list, so even if you don't script off your 18 hours you're awake or whatever it is, two things. Here's what I want to accomplish tomorrow. So you've got a good idea what tomorrow's going to bring. And when you're doing, going through your day, doing your tasks, like, is this going to accomplish one of those two things? Yes, good. I'm gonna keep doing it. No, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's like it's very, very basic. There's two things we're doing today. This is not one of them. Let me get back to one of those two things. So that's good advice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, exactly. Like once you see that, and it's kind of like self accountability too, in a sense. Like if you see in your planner, for example, 4 to 7 p.m., I was supposed to do, I don't know, I was supposed to go for a jog because I want to lose body fat. But
A
then
long run
you go on a run, yeah, and then
for 3 hours.
the
That's a long
schedule.
time.
What's that?
3 hours is a long run, but
Three.
okay.
Yeah. This is a very ambitious
Very
run.
ambitious.
But yeah, if they see at that night they go to plan their next day and they say, oh, you know what, I scheduled from 4 to 7 or 4 to 6, whatever, that they're gonna go for a run, and they'll sit there and think to themselves, I was actually just scrolling through social media like the entire afternoon. I should probably not do that again if I want to, really lose that weight. Or they'll sit there and say, well, you know what? Maybe I don't care about losing weight. Maybe I'd prefer to just kind of, relax and scroll, which is fine. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but it puts into perspective what the person should be doing and helps them understand, did you do the things you need to be doing? I just think it's again, it's simple and like the concept's simple, but in practice, it's at least from what I've seen, it's not always super simple.
It's not, but you hit the big things of prioritization and accountability. That if it's identify what needs to get done, what should get done, what's most important, and I'm accountable to myself, there's a better chance than not that it's going to happen. So I think that's the perfect place to start, regardless of where you are. Um, Changing gears a moment, and you mentioned writing a book at a prior uh, career stop, and author is part of your biography. How did that happen, and what is the book about?
Yeah, so in general, I like to write as a hobby. The biggest one of kind of the main book that I wrote a few years ago, I regret the title nowadays, but because I don't think it's a great title, but it's called 27 by 27. And it's sort of just a book about just different philosophies that I've kind of collected in 27 years. Um, the story behind me writing it is a little bit, in hindsight, it's a little bit silly. At least that's just my perspective on it. But I already kind of had the philosophies and I was already writing down things in like a journal and Google Docs. And I'd always wanted to actually write a book, not to make money from it or anything like that. That would be nice, but it was mainly just to say I wrote a book. And I remember when I turned 27, that was 2020. That was when COVID was really starting to scare people. And I remember I had wanted to write the book and COVID was freaking people out. Everyone kind of had the lockdowns. And I really thought to myself, I was like, man, if I were to, like, God forbid, die from COVID, I would literally be so unhappy if I wanted to write this book for years and then COVID comes along and I don't write the book. And there's no reason for me to not write the book besides me just sitting down and writing the book. Um, and it was funny because in January I was really thinking about, should I write the book? Should I put it off another year? And I think around March or April, that's when the fear was there and everyone was scared and the lockdown started happening. Um, and in a weird way, the lockdowns kind of helped because I got to just sit at home and just write. Um, but yeah, that was the motivation for it, and it was a weird like fear of death, to be honest, as silly as that might sound in hindsight, or maybe not silly. That was the motivation to write the book. I think that's probably why I chose that name, just because it was the name to me is it's not a very good marketing name, but it's just kind of like the name that stuck at the time.
You're
So,
talking to the guy who hosts the Your 1230 podcast, so I am not going to quibble with any names, especially when numbers are prominently involved. So no worries about that. But I think you hit on that. It was a strange time for pretty much everyone, and that idea of I've been thinking about this. I want to get it done because I don't want to not do it any longer. Was pretty prevalent. So I think that's fairly accurate, and it's good that you have that to say I want to do this, and now it's done, and it's something that you can look back on. And especially as you mentioned, you like writing. Um, how is that? How is that outside of the book? How is a interest and a talent in writing, how has that helped in kind of other aspects or all of the stuff that you do?
that's a really good question. I don't, I never really think about that too much. I think kind of in a general sense, I feel like at least writing, I will say it gives me more of an appreciation for language. Um, I have a goal right now. My girlfriend is Brazilian, so one of my goals is to learn Portuguese, of course, to better communicate with her family. Because they only speak Portuguese. But I've always had a goal of learning different languages, and I kind of have an appreciation for language. One of the other languages I want to learn is Germany, not even to speak it, just to, from what I understand, German words have a certain built-in, it's hard to describe. There's a certain, some words have very distinct and specific definitions that aren't really translated to other languages. Like the meaning behind the words aren't well translated. Um, so I think writing just kind of gives you that appreciation for language and words. And I think a part of it too is the more you write, at least this is just my personal take, the more you write, I think the more you kind of are forced to think about certain concepts and ideas and really try to articulate those ideas in a certain way. Um, that's just the way that's just the way I see it. I don't know if, I'm sure that's not the case with everybody, but yeah, I feel like when I like if I go to write a blog, for example, I have to really sit there and think to myself, I perceive this idea in one way, and by me writing it, I'm actively trying to articulate it in a way that other people, at least the general public, can understand it. So I know sometimes, like in people's heads, I assume this is the case with everybody. You have an idea and you want to say something, but it's hard for you to really spit out what you want to say. And I feel like writing kind of forces you to really sit there and think about what's up here, so that way everyone can see what's up here. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing of a of a series of sentences.
No, because the way it makes sense to me is that when you write down, you lose the context of I can't describe it, I can't follow up. The words are just there. I have to get them correct because my tone of voice doesn't change. I can't say it, in a louder voice, or I can't say it more quietly to show what I'm. Nope, the words are the words, so the words have to be chosen properly. So I think that makes a ton of sense. Looking up, we are somehow already at time, so I do want to get out of here on this. You mentioned talking to clients about what they want to do over periods of time, 5 to 10 years. How about
Mhm.
yourself? What do you see yourself accomplishing in the next 5 to 10 years?
Next 5 to 10 years, my main goal right now is to so I call it kind of geographic agnosticism. That's the main thing, and it's a fancy way that I made up to say I would like to just live anywhere. Just kind of make money anywhere, like that laptop lifestyle that people always bring up when you see like the influencers and stuff like that. Um, I think that'd be interesting. That's kind of the goal right now. Part of it is part of it's not even for the travel. I think there's just benefits to me. Again, I want to learn different languages, and I think the way for me to learn different languages and really kind of communicate effectively with different cultures is to be free enough, at least financially, and not have money coming from one place where I can just go, say, for example, to Germany and spend like a month or two or three, however long I need to learn German from Germans and learn kind of like speak it the way they speak it. Like I could, of course, get a German teacher, but it's not the same to me, at least, as going to the people that speak it and learning it from them. Or I used to live in Japan very briefly, and I feel like when you go to a place and like try to live in their shoes, you get a different experience. But sadly, if you don't have both the money and the time um, to kind of do it a certain way, it's a tough. It's hard to accomplish that goal. So that's kind of where I see myself in the next 5 to 10 years. Um, just having enough money is part of it, but making money from making some internet money, um, at least enough where it's sustainable and I can predict it, and I don't have to feel like I'm working at it all day, so I can just kind of go to other places and just learn cool things from other people, have some cool experiences. So
Very
it's kind of the
nice.
goal right now.
Very nice. And Lenny, where can our listeners find you, or where they learn more if they'd like to?
Yeah, best place I would say LennyRichardson.online is just my personal website. They can go there. If you want to find me on Instagram and just DM me, it's Leviticus Rich. I know it's might be a bit hard to spell. But Leviticus like the book in the Bible, rich like money. Um, yeah, those are the best two places. And real quick, I just want to point out too, if anyone's interested, I made this kind of productivity bundle. It's just a bunch of different books, guides, courses I wrote and created. It's free to help people kind of beat procrastination, focus better, plan their day out. There's a planner in there that kind of walks you through my at least steps on how to plan your day out. If you DM me or go on my website, you can find it 100% free. Don't worry about it. And if you don't, some people I know don't like to give their emails out because they don't like to be spammed and stuff. I don't spam. But if you don't want to do your email, just shoot me a DM and I'll just send everything in a big link to you. I'm not trying to spam people. So
Nicely done. We will post all of those links in the show notes, Lenny. This has been a blast. Thank you very much for joining us, and I do look forward to doing this again.
same here, same here. I appreciate you having me on, Mike.